Welcome to Studio 5, and thank you so much for your company. We have a special edition of the show to share this week. It's a show that earned our humble production a Telly Award. Take a look. Welcome to Studio 5. This is a special episode and very timely in light of all the headlines in the world today and the division when it comes to race in America. We thought it'd be great to revisit some of the conversations we've shared. It's an issue we've always tried to explore openly and honestly. We sat down with the likes of rappers KB and Lecrae, media moguls Tyler Perry and Russell Simmons, actors Cuba Gooding Jr. and Denzel Washington, just to name a few. We want to share some of those again. Let's get started. Your latest album is Today We Rebel.
Yeah.
Why? What are we rebelling against? Today
Yes.
We Rebel.
Yeah. It's that title comes from a culmination of experiences and writings that I've sort of given myself to. I think one with Martin Luther King, who said that to love is to be radical. That there is, to say that Jesus wasn't a radical is to misunderstand Jesus. And so when I realized that if you're to love truly and genuinely, it will be met with a sense of persecution and pushback. If you're to stand for justice genuinely, it will be met with persecution and pushback. And in that moment, we had to ask ourselves if we're free or not. If we've been freed to live as kingdom people in this world, when opposition comes, we meet that opposition with rebellion. So we will be rebels for love, rebels for truth, rebels for justice, rebels for service, because to me that seems to be the proper response to a world that would want to take away what we know which is right. Yeah.
I think we hear a lot of that in the music. I'm thinking of the track New Portrait, which talks about the whole issue of race and identity.
Yeah.
What drove that? Is that what we're seeing unfold in our world, the divisiveness? What pulled that out of you?
Yeah, New Portrait is an important song for me because I had a conversation with a gentleman while I was making the album. It's a part of this black nationalist group in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And we were having a great conversation, and I mentioned to him that I was a Christian, and he about fell out of his seat. He was like, "Man, you seem to be smarter than that. Like, why would you go and do that?"
Wow.
Like, you've been brainwashed. And you know, my posture was, well, I have been washed, and I've been washed by the blood of Jesus, and I'm not unaware of the attacks on, you know, ethnic people that would claim Christianity as their own. I'm not unaware of some of the historical failures of folks who were part. I'm Southern Baptist, a part of Southern Baptist Convention, which is Southern Baptist Convention was started in response to those who want to take away their slavery. So I'm not unaware of that, but I'm also aware that the Jesus of the Bible transcends and goes back far beyond. I saw recently an article said, if you're looking for an ancient African religion, try Christianity, because there's a deep-rooted sort of history and presence of Christianity from the East and the South moving up north and west that we often forget about. We talk about people like Augustine and Athanasius and Alexander of St. Clement, these individuals who are of the same ethnicity that you would find any ethnic, you know, non-white person who were part of the sort of foundations of the church, how we do theology, how we do hermeneutics. It has come from, it has a very diverse background, which points to the fact that Jesus is not owned by any race. Nobody has a monopoly on the Son of God. It's not the product, the gospel's not the product of Europe. It's the product of heaven, and it comes down to us. And I think some of these historical points underline that point. So that's why that was an important song for me.
It's a wonderful song too. Lecrae, who you work with, has distanced himself from the evangelical world and called them out for not taking a stand alongside him and others when it comes to the issue of racism in this country.
Yeah.
You agree with that stand?
I agree that the evangelical church has not done well with the issue of race in this country. I think that one of the biggest issues facing us is the politicizing of our faith, that we begin to ask questions like, are you Republican before I align with you? Or are you Republican before I love you? Are you Republican before I consider you a solid believer? I think that's a tremendous misstep for the people of God in this nation. I haven't been benefited a lot from a lot of what evangelicals have done and have deep relationships with the evangelical church. I consider myself a black evangelical to a certain degree. I feel a responsibility to lead and to challenge and to bring redemption, I think, to issues that have been largely mismanaged by people. I think at the end of the day, even if I deal with brothers and sisters who are blinded by bias and politics and racism and white supremacy, many of them, Christ has died for them. And as someone who has sort of a pastoral heart, I want to be a part of shepherding people into knowledge, into wokeness, into a vision of the kingdom that's more in sync with Scripture. And that actually excites me. I'm not tired of the conversation. I don't run from it. You can talk to anybody at Winter Jam. You know, I'm one of the few black people on this tour. But we have lots of conversations about those things. Let's talk about Donald Trump. Let's talk about race. Let's talk about racism, because God has something to say about it, and we should not let those things get us to a point where the blood of Jesus is secondary and our political positions become primary. So I feel excited about leading in those conversations.
June 19th, or Juneteenth, marks the day the last remaining slaves in Texas learned about their freedom, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. There's now a movement to make that day a national holiday. Virginia and New York honored the day as an official holiday in those states this year. We'll continue our look back at eye-opening conversations when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
And welcome back to this Studio 5 special report on race in America. We're continuing our conversations with entertainers and thought leaders on the subject. Take a look.
There's a moment now where things are being taken from us without us even knowing. There's stuff happening to us right now. They're attacking us right now. They're finding ways to destroy our environment, poison our children. You know, they're giving leeway to business to take advantage of us in every possible way. And we're not active. So when we have the voices in the community speaking up, it'll make a big difference to get more people active. You know, and I think that's really what hip-hop's goal is, to really inform and inspire. And that's what they want. Everyone who speaks wants to inform and inspire. So, you know, we're moving in the right direction right now.
Where is God in poetry?
Well, God is right in the words. God is everywhere in all things and in all struggle. The collective, or you know, I mean, when you say God, you know, you could mean the higher self. The higher self is more likely to come out of poetry than he is from other expressions, you know, because that's when, again, the silence comes, and God only exists in stillness.
Dante, you say something at the very start of the film, or very close to it. Violence is not going to stop. This is beyond flesh. It's spiritual. Can you speak to that? What drove that statement?
It was my growing up in a violent community, consuming culture that was violent, as far as the rappers that I listened to, as far as the movies that I watched, and understanding that this is not just entertainment, because it's happening in my living room, in my kitchen, outside in my front yard, backyard. So it's like, oh, this is what it is. And then once I was pursuing to be that, and then I was like, nah, I think I want to do something different. I'm gonna write to uplift my community. I want to stop violence. I want to stop the violence in my community. And then I realized the more I researched and read, I'm like, violence has been around since the beginning. It's always wars of different communities for whatever reason. I'm like, dang, violence is bigger than just, I can say I want to stop gun violence, but violence is in all different types. It's the words that you speak to somebody that's very violent. By telling somebody that you're stupid or you're not worth anything. That's a violent act. So what I meant by that is, oh, if we are spiritual beings, it's more than just what I do to you physically, it's how I think about you mentally. It's what I feel about myself spiritually. So I'm like, you can't stop violence by locking me in jail. I'm gonna beat up the guards. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not causing havoc on the street. I'm up in jail raising a bunch of havoc. So it's like, oh, it's spiritual. So until we understand that, you're not gonna stop nothing. I don't care how much money, how much you vote, until you tap into that, it ain't gonna stop.
But to add to that, what you always say, and I'm repeating what you say, is you do it for yourself. That's how it's transformative to others, to do it for yourself. You can't just go out and be an activist. You gotta go out and change yourself in order to go out and change the world. It's a cycle of the same. You give what you want to receive, but you got to receive what you want to give.
Yeah, the self-work begins first.
That's right. Self-reflection, that's life's goal, you know, to know the self. Self-realization is life's goal.
Yeah. Dante, you're not just an artist, but you're an activist now as well. Was there a point? I know there was a point. What was the point in your life that you realized the power of the spoken word, the power of poetry? What happened?
It was my second poem. I wrote it during summer school of 2007. Ironically, I was in an English class. We was reading Romeo and Juliet, and I was cracking jokes with my homeboy. It wasn't really my friend. We didn't grow up or nothing, but white boy, very small, had on a backpack. He was just laughing in class, and I used to just watch him like, he seemed so happy. But he had a big hole in the front of his shoes where you could see his socks, and they was dirty. And I was just thinking, like, how is he able to smile so big with his shoes looking like that? Because at the time, I had on some shoes, and I had a hole at the bottom of my shoes, and I put cardboard in it, so when I walked, the rocks wouldn't hit my foot. So I'm like, I know how I feel, but he is smiling. So I wrote a poem dedicated to that, and wrote about it. And once I shared it and I saw people's response to it, it was like, because I knew where that poem came from. And I saw how other people responded to it. It was like, dang. Now, if I would have just told somebody like what I was going through, I probably would have got teased for it. Like, oh, you got a hole at the bottom of your shoe. But if I talk about it in a poem, then now people like, dang, I ain't know. And it's like, that just showed me the power of just by saying poetry or poems. This is coming in an artistic way. People listen more. So with that, it's like, I'm gonna take advantage of that.
As we continue this conversation, it's worth noting there's a documentary we shared some time ago. It featured author James Baldwin in his own words, diving deep into the impact of racism on our country and on our lives. It's worth going back and taking a look at the film, I Am Not Your Negro. Stay with us. This conversation continues right after this.
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
And welcome back to Studio 5. Let's continue our look back at racism as explored right here on this show. Take a look. Cynthia, what would you say the greatest lesson Harriet Tubman taught you in doing this film?
That even when you feel small or insignificant, that you probably have more power than you know. That I have more strength and a will in me in order to change the world, and I have something to offer this world. Yeah.
Because even in terms of stature, I mean,
she was 5 foot,
and you're about
5 foot.
So you could feel the pressure of being looked at as small.
Yeah, consistently. Yeah.
Leslie, growing up in New York.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia News. Wow, so Philadelphia for you.
Yeah.
What a great place to grow up in.
Yeah.
How much do you recall or remember in the history lessons for you about Harriet Tubman?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. We touched on Harriet almost every year, probably in primary school, and we even touched on William. So I knew about their work. I knew about their life's work, the passion, and them being on the front lines of the movement with the Underground Railroad, but I didn't know about the life. I didn't know about what may have led them to that passion. So the homework for me was filling in the gaps of my education with the childhood stuff, the life stuff.
I'd venture to say that for many of us, you were introducing us to William because we did not know about him.
Sure.
Who is he?
Sure. William was he's known as the father of the Underground Railroad. He was an abolitionist, a writer, a brilliant man, an activist. and a friend to Harriet Tubman. He was really the last stop on the Underground Railroad, on this great network full of allies and people who were risking their lives to see to it that black people could know freedom.
What did faith mean for Harriet on this journey?
It meant everything. I think it was one of the driving forces for her to keep moving forward. She says, notably, that God would give her messages in which she would use to follow through. There's a moment in the film where she's told to go left, and that is part of her story. She used to tell a one-woman story, one-woman performance about her run to freedom, and she would talk about the connections in which she made with God, the messages she would get from God to make the journey. So I believe it was one of the most important things to her, and she would speak on that faith. Yeah.
If both of you could take me back to Virginia, you guys are out shooting this film. How emotional was the experience?
Oh, it was very emotional for me, particularly. It was emotional. It pulled on everything, you know. You're reliving loss consistently, you're reliving hardships and hard work, and when you combine that with exhaustion and tiredness and the physical work that has to be done, you wear yourself quite thin, so that the line between you and the character and the person sort of fades a little, so everything is right at the surface. Yeah, it was intense, for sure.
Leslie, how emotional was it for you?
I mean, William really, part of his reason for being in the film is that it's just this really wonderful juxtaposition of two very different portraits of black life living in America at the same exact time. And, you know, kind of how combustible that can be. You know, it's a source of drama and comedy in our movie. Obviously, they're a huge support for one another, but I'll say, you know, yeah, my stuff really, you know, pales in comparison to almost the way Williams would have, you know, to what Harriet had to go through. You know, William he was in his office, he was at the printing press, you know. His work was very different, you know. He made real change for sure, and was an architect of this network, you know. Brilliant man, and also had the, you know, when thinking about how much instinct plays a part in this story, you know, Harriet's relationship with God, that was instinct that led William to record these stories, you know, to write these stories down. He risked everything to make sure that there was a record of this bravery and courage and these impossible stories. William saw to it that there was a record of it.
And I do think that it feels like where we are right now is in need of something that shows us our power as human beings when we resist and when we use ourselves to change things for the better, how much change we can make. This is a woman whose life was, you know, 91 years long, and in that time she did many things, all for good. And if that's no example, then I don't know what is. You know, I think that's why now.
Another great voice we've shared in our conversations on race is Brian Stevenson. He's a personal hero and the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative. It's worth checking out his work and learning how you can support. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Introducing the CBN Bible from cbn.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, incredible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Come home to the Southern Gospel Station from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites. CBN Southern Gospel. Available now at cbnradio.com.
Welcome back to Studio 5. Thank you so much for staying with us through this extended conversation on race. Before we go, we have one final word for today's show. Take a listen.
You say you always knew that there was greater for you. Do you remember the moment you knew, or what happened that light went on for you?
No, it's just always knew. I always felt as a kid that there was more for me. I didn't see things the way that my a lot of the other kids in the neighborhood saw things, that, you know, or even my parents for that matter. They saw us being black, or us being poor, or us being, like, even I had a teacher, I said, you know, they were asking kids what they want to be, and I said I want to be a millionaire, and he said, you're never going to make it because you're poor and you're black. But even as a child, there was something in me that said, that's not true, don't believe that. But I know now that was and is the voice of God. That was the counter to the negativity. It was the altar to it that was always encouraging me, for sure.
And obviously that was critical in light of all that you were going to endure, that you needed to always.
I had to know. And you know, the other part of it too is I thank God for my mother. I feel sorry for kids whose parents don't give them God, don't give them faith, don't give them Jesus, because life is going to get hard at some point, and you will turn to something. Everyone turns to something, and I'm so glad I had the option, and I had a mother who was smart enough or strong enough or had the wherewithal and the faith enough to say, son, this is where you go, so that I'm not strung out on drugs. Because the things that I've been through, man, it's a wonder that I'm sitting here, but he is a wonder. Yeah, for sure.
That's a great final word for this edition of Studio 5. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.